it's very much a place that is the easiest way to describe it is the haves, which is places like Foggy Bottom and Georgetown, and the have-nots, which is Ward 7 and Ward 8 in particular, which is at the east end of the city. Why it's been decades, multiple generations, that very little has changed in Ward 8. Why is that the case? And what are you hoping to accomplish as the next commissioner of this area?
Well, one of the things I hope to accomplish, I want to answer your second one first, is just to use my voice and those connections that I've made, those relationships that I have built to bring more attention, and more conversation to the table about the needs of Ward 8 and specifically my single member district, which is Bellevue, which covers the easternmost part of the east of the river. We're nearly in like Maryland. We're so close to,
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you're familiar
you can pretty much hit FedEx Field from where you are.
Right. Yeah. So I'm very close to there. And my experience has been, I've lived here in DC for over 20 years in different wards, but I've lived here in Ward 8 now for going on 8 years. And just the level of services, just the response times, the idea and the notion somehow that we are considered last after all budgeting decisions are made, after all funds have been disseminated, it then becomes, oh, well, here's the leftovers and see what you can do with them. And I just feel like that's an injustice. I feel like that's immoral in many ways. And like you all pointed out, there are folks that have lived here. As I was out canvassing for this particular role, I was talking to residents who have lived in their homes for 54 years.
Wow.
And they are, wondering, why have we been forgotten? What is happening in this city? It is changing before my very eyes. DC was predominantly Black. When I moved here, I came to Howard University as a freshman a whole bunch of years ago. It was called Chocolate City because DC was about 70% Black when I came. And as of the last census, the demographics are now 46.
Wow.
A lot of people aren't aware of that. So that's
like citywide gentrification, like on a mass scale. So where have people been migrating to? Where has that population gone?
They have gone primarily, the biggest increase has been what we call Ward 6, the wharf area, the waterfront, which has been built up and redeveloped, and it's, fabulous. It used to just be a string of like seafood restaurants and a couple of nightclubs. And now there's condominiums and there's restaurants, and they're building it up into a sports district. So they put the Nationals baseball stadium over there and the Audi Field soccer stadium over there. And so they have built that up, and that has seen the most explosive growth. And so what they do is also with the census every 10 years, they also redistrict the wards. Because the way our home rule is set up here in DC, all wards endeavor to have no more than 90,000 people in them each. And if any one of them grows above the 90,000 within the 10 years, then they look to sort of redistribute and redistrict the wards to make them the population more equitable. So Ward 6 grew, and it kind of got split. So parts of it did get put in Ward 8 this time, and parts of it got put in Ward 7, much to the chagrin of some of the residents, but that's a whole nother conversation. But the majority of Black Washingtonians, Native Washingtonians, still reside and remain in Ward 7 and Ward 8, and very much want to preserve that history and that culture of the city, but finding a very difficult, time in doing that with the level of gentrification, with the pace of gentrification, certainly, and with the lack of equitable opportunities being distributed throughout the city.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely glad that someone like you is going to be on that commission. I mean, it's like on the one hand, you're seeing development, you're seeing all these great things, but they're destroying whatever the history is of those neighborhoods. And it's always very patriarchal. It's like, okay, we're going to designate this for you. We're going to give you this for this.
Yes.
Instead of building up by giving control to the people of those areas to build up what they want and what they see fit in their neighborhoods. Right. And that's always, to me, been a huge issue. And that, of course, is why we're having so much gentrification. But it seems to me that it's very intentional. Right? Like if you make sort of life unhappy and you make neighborhoods sort of fall apart, then you can go in and scoop them up for a cheap price, gentrify them, and make a lot of real estate money. Like that's to me how I see it. And if they really cared, then the money would go to reinvesting in those communities as they see fit.
You're not suggesting that real estate developers are only looking out for themselves, are you?
I'm suggesting that capitalism in all areas is not working for us. That's what I'm suggesting.
You're sounding as if somehow they're going into some of the, even our public housing complexes and allowing them to become dilapidated, kind of forcing people to have to find someplace else to go.
Yes.
And then offering that building for sale for $1 to a developer so that they can come in.
Turn them into an Airbnb.
But so it's like, but then what happens is that, so the people that live there and maybe work there now are not able to live near where they work.
Exactly.
So, right. And so now you're connecting it to an unemployment problem for that person, because now where they're maybe having to live, they don't have the means to work anywhere near there.
Right.
It's like it's really a huge problem. And what they need fighters protecting their neighborhood and the integrity of their neighborhood at all levels.
And for those who do not think that it is not deliberate in terms of city and urban planning, as far as the gentrification factors, the factors that result in people living in poorer areas, particularly in Washington, D.C., I personally think that Washington, D.C. has maybe the best metro system in the whole country. The problem is that the neighborhoods that need it the most are the ones who have the least amount of stops. And they're always the furthest away from where you want to be and where you need to be. Whereas in the wealthy areas, there is a train stop literally within 2 or 3 blocks, almost anywhere you go.
Shocking.
Listen, transportation, food, one of the things that I'm looking forward to, well, let me say this. It's a natural fit for me as a preacher and as a minister to speak up and call out injustice. And I've always looked at public service as a form of ministry. So I am going to speak. I'm going to use my platform, my voice, and all of that to speak up for those who feel like they have no voice. So this was natural for me. And I can be nice and holy, and I can also raise holy hell, because I don't like injustice. It's just a part of my nature to call it out and to hold folks accountable. That's something that I'm looking forward to doing. But one of the things, and for instance, when we're talking about these inequities that exist in Ward 8, remember I mentioned there, 90,000 folks roughly per ward. We have one full service grocery store in Ward 8 for 90,000 residents. One.
How about that, Metopoly? Think about that.
Ward 3, our more affluent ward where American University is and, going up near Chevy, has 16.
16. I was going to say at least a dozen.
16.
Yeah.
Full service grocery store, Wegmans, Safeway. They have a plethora. We have
Whole Foods. Got to have your Whole Foods. I mean, that's important.
Yeah. One. That's unacceptable to me. That's unacceptable. And so, they'll put in a little market. About a year and a half ago, they went and got what I like to I called it a boutique bodega in the article that I did, the interview I did, because they got up there and they said, oh, we're opening up this, Good Foods Market. And it's our, finally another full service grocery store for Ward 8. And we've worked so hard for this. They had a whole dog and pony show out in front of the location about what they were doing and bringing to the, to the community and that. And it was not that. It was a whole gaslighting project. Forgive me, but I'm calling out some of our leadership in the city because they just announced a month ago that they're closing. And how did you bring this into the community it wasn't a good fit. I'm just saying it was not like a full service grocery. It really was like a mini mart, right? Like you could go in, but it had some boutique things, and that's not a good fit for the area and the community that they, wanted to serve. They had $9.99 salads in a mason jar in there. Who's buying that? I mean, if you can afford it or not. And so the owners claiming financial, problems is closed the market. And there's been no outrage. The same folks who danced in front of it as an accomplishment, they can't be found now to come and talk about why this is closing suddenly after a year and a half and what they plan to do to replace it.
Well, food deserts is huge. This is a huge, huge problem. And it's never going to get the right attention because the people that need to care cannot make enough profit in those neighborhoods. And since our government refuses to subsidize them accordingly, see, I have no problem with the idea that people should make a profit. I have no problem with that. I think supermarkets should make a profit. But I also think there needs to be obligations, just sort of like we put on developers. Fine, you want to develop, but you got to build this amount of schools. I think it's the same with supermarkets.
Yes.
We need to require them to serve communities, even when it's not for profit, as part of the deal to exist.
That's exactly right.
And I also think we're big proponents of doing community gardens and at schools and doing the most we can to educate, because having the availability is important, but so is being educated on the food and on the different things.
Yes.
And that's also something that's often lacking in those food deserts.
Right.
I've spent a lot of time doing this with my friend down here. And it's amazing to me how little we teach our kids about that kind of stuff anywhere, but specifically in those neighborhoods that need it so badly. Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.